No, so I was just going to add to a comment earlier. I think we have a big problem at the moment. You know, you go onto Twitter and you've got lots of followers, and therefore you are popular, and therefore you have influence. And yet you could be incredibly knowledgeable in one area and lacking in any credibility in another area. And unfortunately, at the moment, unless you actually tackle the vertical of not just is this person knowledgeable, but is this person knowledgeable in that field, you're always going to struggle, regardless of whether you give them credits or any other sort of things that give them prominence. You know, same thing on Amazon. You know, you have book reviewers and they review and review and review, but they may be really good on historical non-fiction. So when they do a review of, you know, something completely different, how relevant is their review and how trustworthy is their review?
It might not be relevant. I mean, it comes down to a trust factor. Do you know that person, and do you know if they're an expert or not?
So I wanted to make a similar point here. I think in the future we'll find some way that'll have an effective user interface and some scalable data here that can unify social systems where we can actually, you know, leverage our friend ties, collaborative filtering, which says this is what's like me, and reputation systems. So I can then know this person on this topic is someone I trust. But I mean, right now there are 3 different axes, and different people are doing different slices of them. I think part of the challenge will be how to explain this to people without making it some sort of magic algorithm and giving people the incentive structure. But each of those 3 things are covering different aspects of the sort of quandaries that we're talking about. We want things that are similar to us, we want things from people that are like us, and we want things from people that we know. And so how to unify all those, I mean, that'll get you a very powerful draw for reputation or for you know, pushing through your ad dollars.
Just from the last couple of comments then, if we're looking at 2014, we're looking at the trust of information, a lot more people coming online, a lot more people with dodgy opinions, but a lot more people with good opinions as well. Are we looking towards exclusive clubs? Are we looking at membership of particular social networks? Are we looking at monetizing networks in those ways maybe?
I'm a firm believer that this is going to be more open in the future versus more closed. But I think we will have access to filters which will allow us to drill down on certain verticals and certain. I think it's always about local on one side and then verticals on the other one, and we'll be able to move those needles according to what we need. But I don't believe we'll see more like closed network. I think it's all going to open up and maybe go open source. For me, a Facebook today reminds me a lot about AOL. So that's why they're pushing to open up as much as they can. But we'll have to see.
I think that's one of the big challenges is going to be, it is this whole, how do you take the real world of word of mouth reputation and, you know, community and make it useful in 5 years' time and keep it. I think openness is going to be a big part of it, and it's whoever solves that challenge well, or the people who do, will be very successful and very popular.
For me, it's important how the on and offline worlds will mix, and so how the trust issues and the openness issues we're talking about, how consumers and companies can work together so that you know, data about where you are as a consumer can be shared. At the moment, when we go into shops and cafes and restaurants, we don't tell those places that we're there. You know, whereas mobile will allow us to, in whatever way, in a few years' time. And if, as consumers, we're incentivized so that we're okay with sharing that data, that yes, I'm now in your cafe, or I'm now in Starbucks, you know, whatever we might think of Starbucks in a few years' time. I think if there are those incentives, then that can certainly be to the benefit of both consumer and companies for the 2014 model.
Well, I think a lot of those status updates will be done automatically. You'll give permission to your devices to basically broadcast, and maybe you'll be rewarded by the merchants for allowing them to get access to that data.
That sounds like Flutter.
Yeah, exactly. Jen, get coffee.